Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up, the WNW 215 for Friday, November 11th, 2015. The U.S. is now sending about a dozen F 15s to Turkey. These F-15 specialize in air-to-air combat. Now, the Pentagon's official statement says in part that it is to, quote, ensure the safety, end quote, of NATO allies, but there's speculations that the jets could also help support the Kurds, and our 50 special ops we're sending to help advise or train the Kurds. Now, on top of that is what happens if Russia starts bombing our special ops or bombing our allies, the Kurds? I mean, right now they're bombing, anything over there that is against Assad. And, the moderate rebels, they're teamed up with Al-Qaeda and ISIS. I mean, they talked about this 50-ton ammunition drop. I read about it in the USA Today, and they just said, well, they dropped, some ammunition to the moderate rebels, to the fighters there fighting the Assad regime. Well, I mean, if you're being hunted down by Russian attack helicopter, Russian jets, Hezbollah, Iranian and Russian troops, aren't you aligned with, if you're the moderate rebels, aren't you going to be aligned with ISIS and Al-Qaeda? I mean, after all, you're being hunted down like dogs. But the speculation, the fear is that, these F-15s could be getting into dogfights either accidentally or on purpose with Russian fighters who might, after they secure much of Syria, that there would be time to go after the Kurds, I guess. And that they could be going after U.S. even before that. U.S. interests, U.S. People that we back, the Kurds, and going after our special forces, which is a ridiculous amount of people to send into war, in a war like that. 50? 50? How about 10,000? 50? So it's unbelievable. Now, the U.S. also has long had a base, long had operations out of Turkey. They're sending these F-15s. They also have other Air Force assets over there, like F-16s, F-22s, B-1 bombers, plenty of Air Force hardware to, get a regional or world war going in a hurry. But this is not a good sign. The signs are that war is ramping up. Men, machinery, things are going into that part of the world that are not peaceful. It's war. More war is on the way, guaranteed, basically. Meanwhile, Russia has been having meetings with a couple of big players in the Middle East, namely Saudi Arabia and Egypt. The speculation for Saudi Arabia is, stop selling oil only in dollars. I mean, who knows? Saudi Arabia has been funding the moderate rebels and ISIS and Al-Qaeda to try to overthrow Syria. It's been long in the press that this is about a pipeline deal going through Syria. And Saudi Arabia and Qatar wanted it, and the Assad regime said no. Then we have this civil war. But the things in the situation in Syria is horrible. And speaking of Egypt, let's talk about Egypt. About this Russian commercial jet being shot down and killing 224 people coming back from vacation. And it's right off the get-go, Al-Qaeda is like, well, we did it. I mean, usually you're kind of sheepish when you murder 224 people, but not, I should say, ISIS or an ISIS affiliate. They're usually kind of sheepish about things like that. But no, not ISIS. Oh, no, they want credit for it. I mean, they came out one day and people kind of blew them off, and then the next day they're, oh no, we did it, we want credit. They're almost angry they're not getting credit for murdering these people. But the Brits who have canceled some flights, Cameron is doubled down on, hey, we think it was a bomb. And yet the Russians and the U.S. are saying, wait, not so fast. We don't have any evidence that it is a bomb. There's another school of thought out there that says this Metrojet, this airplane, had its tail had bounced off the runway more than a decade ago. They didn't repair it properly, and the tail fell off. And the tail was found 3 miles away from the rest of the airplane wreckage in the Sinai Peninsula. There's also another reason for them not to want this to be a bomb on the plane and a terrorist attack, and ISIS is adamant they want credit for it. At first, they said it was a missile. It wasn't a missile. They don't have anything that'll shoot, 5-6 miles high to knock that plane down, is what reports are. They say it was a plane with a barometric switch. The pressure blew it up. But the tourism industry is going to go splat in it's Egypt, especially in the Sinai Peninsula, in that vacation resort down there at the tip of the Sinai Peninsula, the southern tip. And maybe the whole entire Egyptian tourist industry could go down. It's a huge percentage of their GDP, about 11%, and 12% of the population work in tourism. I mean, it's a country of 80 million people. I mean, 10% is what 8 million people could be, paychecks could be cut off or affected if the tourism just completely dwindles down to nothing. One thing for sure, the tourism in that part of the world in the Sinai Peninsula is going to be hurt. They've already cut off flights and cut off, many countries have said we're not flying there for the time being, and people aren't going there. And there's something like 20,000 Brits alone that are kind of stranded in that part of the world. So there's one thing is for sure, that the things in the Middle East, as I said, are increasing the bad things, tensions, war talk, war assets are moving in, more people, more ISIS fighters, more soldiers, more jet aircraft. Everything is converging, moving into the Middle East. And that is a bad sign for world peace, folks. That is just a bad sign. The other thing is that friction and war talk is happening on the other side of the world in the South China Sea. And that's also heating up. China has built islands down there in what they call its new territory. They say, hey, the South China Sea, that's ours. They've built several islands down there. The islands have long runways and military application to them. The U.S. wants to keep those waterways open. They've sent ships through there. Most recently, they sent a ship through there to be within the 12-mile territorial zone that China claims now in around some of those islands. The Chinese have reacted angrily to this. China is also reportedly shadowing some of our ships in the Pacific with their submarines. China also is saying that their sovereignty is, quote, threatened, end quote, and calls the U.S. action highly dangerous, end quote, which is, more than a subtle hint that they could go to war over this. They've actually been saying that. U.S. Pacific Command Admiral Harry Harris, who's been an outspoken critic of China's island building in the South Pacific, in the South China Sea, I should say, Spratly Islands, says that the South China Sea is no more China's domain than the Gulf of Mexico is Mexico's. The tensions mount, and the U.S. has conflict in two major places between Russia and China in the Middle East in the South China Sea. Neither one of those is dying down whatsoever. I got to get in with and if it wasn't so dire, I would say this is funny, but it's not funny because the Fed is back and forth on this interest rate hike, even though all the news and all my guests are saying, listen, all the metrics are dreadful. All the financial news is dreadful. But this is in the USA Today Money section. Yellen implies rate hike is near. And what she's talking about near is in December, and she told Congress that a rate hike is a, quote, a live possibility. A live possibility is her quote. And then lots of people are saying that, like David Stockman says, listen, she's got to raise rates. Other people, Donald Trump, she really should be raising rates. She's doing this as a favor to the Obama administration. And other people say, well, she can't raise rates. I mean, the economy is dreadful. And if she does raise rates, bad things are going to happen to the stock market and to the bond market. And all these, these quadrillion in derivatives could blow up and things could spiral out of control. I mean, I don't know who you want to believe on this. But the IMF has also been warning the Federal Reserve not to raise rates. I don't know why they have to publicly do it. They just can't, call Janet Yellen on the phone. Christine Lagarde, the managing director of the IMF, just can't call up Janet Yellen and say, hey, don't be raising rates. You're going to blow things up. Incidentally, Christine Lagarde, before she got to be the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, she was involved with a big law firm, actually was running a big law firm that did nothing but derivatives. I mean, she had like 2,700 people working for her. Nothing. She was an expert in derivatives. Maybe that's why she's fearful of a tiny 0.25% rate hike. I don't know, but a lot of people say that that a rate hike is going to crash the economy, and already crashing economy. Let me just this is another week. Instead of doing each individual story, just the headlines to show you, where we are. And this is the worst U.S. earnings season since 2009. Oh, that was just after the last blow up. And then this one here, Yellen says negative rates is on the table if outlook it worsened. I mean, 1 minute she's talking about raising rates, and one of her Fed governors is, oh, the economy is going to be strong. And then she's talking about, we'll take rates negative. In other words, you pay the bank to keep your money if the outlook worsened. And then we have a Treasury turnaround as December rate hike odds hit 60%. People are giving it odds better than 6 and 10 that they'll raise rates, even though the headlines are terrible. Here's another little anecdotal headline that says, Kraft Heinz North America to cut 2,600 jobs and close 7 plants. Here we have crude supertanker rates collapse. Manufacturing declines a second straight month. This is just this week, folks. These headlines. Just this week. And Yellen's out saying that, a rate hike is a live possibility. Well, the economy isn't a live possibility. The economy's tanking is a real verifiable fact. And housing also. Bad news on the housing front this past week, and home builders not doing well either. And this is with near record low interest rates for 30-year and 15-year money. And I think if they get to December, in the middle of December, I think their meeting is the 15th, 16th, 14th, 15th, the last meeting of the Federal Reserve, Open Market Committee. I think if they get to December and she does not raise rates, either way, whether she raises them or whether she doesn't, there's going to be a downside. I mean, if she doesn't raise rates, OMG, the economy really does suck. We don't have a recovery. If she does raise rates, OMG, a quadrillion derivatives start, blowing up, and people's ding, 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 we're at the low on interest rates, and stocks and bonds sell off. I don't know. One last thing, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the secret trade deal. Paul Ryan, our new Speaker of the House, was the architect, basically, of this deal. And he and Mitch McConnell and John Boehner all got together. And they got with their president, Barack Obama, who a lot of these guys, most of the time, think that he's like the devil incarnate. It's not what they actually say, but he's the worst president ever. And it's terrible for the economy and jobs. And here they get together and they produce a secret trade deal. And what is this secret trade deal? And also some Democrats voted for this as well. So the president and some key Democrats voted yes on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. They say, we have to take the lead on this. And Democrats and other groups are saying, well, they got to look at the details, some of the details of this group. And a couple of the big headlines, it protects drug makers and pharmaceutical companies. It totally protects them. And the other thing is that it's a job killer. And they even put in the legislation that, there will be training. So this does a big zero, according to some people, for jobs. And that's what the USA Today analysts said, that basically it's a wash on jobs. And they say it's worse than they thought it was, that it's a complete job killer. It does not help create jobs in the U.S. That's what the Republicans have been all about. We want to create jobs. And then they have this Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP, the secret trade deal, and it doesn't really produce jobs. I mean, who are they working for? I suspect not we the people. I think they're working for we the corporations. And most of the Republicans and some of the Democrats, including the president, the leader of the Democratic Party, voted for this. This is going to become a campaign issue, and it's going to be a tar baby for the Republicans. Nobody's going to want it. This is going to be a hot potato. They're not going to want to touch this. That's why the details were secret. That's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com with your comments and donations. Remember, fear not. Prepare yourself physically, mentally, and above all, spiritually. Fear not.